Welcome, Husker fans. Thank you for tuning in to Big Red Radio, the Husker Talk Show. I am your host, Caleb Jenneret. Next to me, as always, is my co-host, Zach Jenneret. Today, we're going to talk about the Wisconsin game briefly, and then we're going to get into the Iowa game, and then maybe we'll talk about some bowl destinations after to see where we'll go. But Zach, how are you doing?
Good. We're bowling for the first time in eight, six,
Since 2016.
yeah,
Yeah,
8 years. 8 years. So it's a long time coming, but we're here. Um, but obviously, none of that matters if you don't get it done this week. It's the biggest week of the season.
yeah. No, I think people's view on the team are much different than they were a couple weeks ago. But the views could go right back to the gutter if you lose against Iowa and then lose the bowl game. Then you finish the year 6-7, kind of leaves you with a sour taste in your mouth. It'd still be better than obviously 5-7 and not making a bowl at all. But kind of where the trajectory is going right now. You want to keep it going. So a win this week would
Eight
be
and five. 8 and 5 looks really
huge.
good.
Oh, it's huge. 8-5 would be huge. I mean, Nebraska would be in talks next year to be like a team. It's the difference between if you lose these next two games, nobody's talking about Nebraska in the offseason. If you win these next two games, people are talking about Nebraska as like a dark horse next year. Truly. Because you think about it, like we're going to talk about it more, I think, briefly, but Nebraska wins against Iowa. They're going to go to Tampa, probably, is what we're being told. And that would be an SEC team. So you get like South Carolina or Ole Miss. If you can beat South Carolina or Ole Miss in a bowl game, and Dylan Raiola looks really good doing it. I mean, Dylan Raiola is on Heisman boards. Nebraska enters the year ranked. You know, just everything's buzzing from it. And it'll be after signing day, so it's not like recruits will flip or anything. But you can get transfer portal guys to look at that and be like, I want to play for that team. So it's a lot can happen in these next two games, and I don't think people are realizing just how important this week especially is. So let's talk about the Wisconsin game for a little bit. It was the highest point total since the Northwestern game, where they scored 56 in Scott Frost's in 2021. So the highest point total in 3 years, and it came against a Wisconsin team that just last week allowed the number one team in the country only 16 points. So the defense is talented. It's not some juggernaut Wisconsin team. It's not the best defense that they've ever had, but it's a capable one. And Nebraska just picked it apart. And the defense didn't look great, but you're giving Wisconsin a lot of chances to get the ball. There's going to be some big plays, and you saw Blyhill got burnt on one. There was some touchdowns that we figure out later that Sierra Wright and Marquise Buford had the flu that game, and just so happens that both the touchdowns were on them. I don't want to use that as an excuse, but it helps satisfy me a little bit more as you expect this high class defense, and then these corners get beat, and one is a guy that hadn't played all year, and then two had the flu. So it's like you take those away, this is a complete blowout. It already was a blowout, but yeah, my biggest takeaway was just how much of a difference Dana Holgorsen can make. And I know a lot of people are talking about Dana Holgorsen, but the fact that he can come in here and then 3 weeks later, the offense is putting out its second highest or its highest point total since in 3 years. It's just crazy what a competent, simplified offense can do for a freshman quarterback.
Yeah, sorry, like I said before, it's not like explosive plays, right? We hit like one, maybe two explosive plays that entire Wisconsin game. Uh, it's things like Emmett Johnson was the first 100-yard rusher since Joe Purdy last year against Wisconsin. Emmett Johnson had almost 100 yards receiving. Dylan Raiola was efficient, right? Super efficient. You're looking like 70% completion rate, almost 300 yards. It's little tiny things. It's 2nd and 4 instead of 2nd and 8. It's 3rd and 2 instead of 3rd and 6. It's little tiny, adjustments here and there that are going to create that, which create games like this. And so can't go out looking for huge plays. Can't go out looking for a huge reshape either, because as we see now, it doesn't take one, right? We have the players, we have the guys. We just have to put them in the right place at the right time and make the right plays.
Yeah, no, it's huge, and that Wisconsin game just showed the potential of this offense. I mean, Dana Holgerson's not even using his offense right now. He's using Marcus Satterfield's offense. He's just calling the plays. So just imagine what he can do when he gets full reins and he gets to be able to take over and fully implement his scheme and his style. Because we've said it before on this show, he's been an offensive coordinator before, and every single year he's been an offensive coordinator. I think it's like 6 seasons in total. He's had a top 10 offense. That's not a fluke. At some point, you got to look at this guy knows how to call plays at an elite level. I mean, he did it enough to get the West Virginia job, to get the Houston job. He's had D1 OC jobs, and now he comes to Nebraska and he shows that he still got it, even though he maybe had some troubles as a head coach a few years ago. Now he's back calling plays, and he can still do it at an elite level. So we're going to talk about the Iowa game now. We're going to go over our 3. We each going to have 3 keys to the game. Then we're going to do our player to watch, and then we're going to get to score predictions. And then we're going to give you some of our picks around college football as well at the end of it. But my first key to the game, it's the exact same first key to the game, and it's probably the most obvious key to the game that you can have. Stop the run. Iowa has the best run game statistically in the Big Ten, running for 213.5 yards per game, led by Caleb Johnson, obviously, who's the second leading rusher in the country with 1,492 yards, 135 yards per game. But you partner that with a former walk-on linebacker playing QB in Jackson Stratton, transfer from Colorado State. I don't know if he was actually a walk-on linebacker, but he was playing scout team linebacker early in the year for Iowa. He was a fifth-string quarterback. In Big Ten games, Iowa only throws for 117 yards per game. That's worse than the Big Ten. Last week, Stratton only starting against Maryland, who usually allows 245 passing yards per game, bottom 5 in the Big Ten. He only threw for 76 yards. He only threw 14 passes, and he completed 10 of them for 76 yards. So he's only throwing for, just over 7 yards per completion. If Nebraska can force this guy to have to make plays, I truly just think he's not going to do it. Like, he's just not good enough. The crazy part about this is, realistically, this is the worst quarterback Nebraska's played all year, and they've played an FCS team.
Right.
Like, and I don't even think it's that close. Like, this guy, we don't know how bad he is because they just don't do anything with him. They don't trust him enough to do anything. If Caleb Johnson's not getting the ball, it's going to be a bootleg for a 7-yard out on third down. And people are talking, I mean, he looked okay against Maryland, but Maryland has truly one of the worst defenses in the country, let alone the Big Ten. So if we can somehow stop Caleb Johnson, who's obviously averaging 135 yards per game, second leading rusher in the country, if we can stop him, if we can hold him under 100 yards, if we can keep him from getting in the end zone, Nebraska's going to have a really good day. And UCLA held him under 100 yards. I think they held him under 50 yards. Like, they shut him down. And you saw what happened in the game. UCLA ended up winning the game. The only reason Iowa stayed in that game is because Brendan Sullivan was healthy most of it, and he was able to get the run game going a little bit. And I think UCLA ended up winning by 10 or 3, and that was actually when Jackson Stratton came in for the first time and looked fine. But once again, they're just not going to ask him to do anything. So if you don't let Caleb Johnson win this for Iowa, Nebraska's going to be in really good shape defensively.
Yeah, I agree. So you have to force him to throw. That's also my first one. Iowa ran the ball 58 times last week. 58 times, right? Or it was 48. Is it 48 or 58?
No, either way.
I think it might have been 58, to be honest with you. But regardless, that's a lot, right? That's a lot. But they're not giving up, right? It doesn't matter how many times you stop them, they're not giving up. So, yes, stop Caleb Johnson. That's a great way to make him pass. An even better way to force him to pass is score points on offense. So that logically, it makes no sense for them to run the ball because they physically cannot get back into the game if they run the ball, okay? Because if the team's willing to run the ball if they're going to run the ball 58 times, you can stop them for 2 or 3 yards a gain. They're going to keep running it, right? They don't care. The only way to really stop this team from running the ball and make them throw the ball with a fifth-string quarterback is make it logically make sense, right? And the only way to make it logically make sense is they have to be down by 2, 3 scores, 17-0, 21-7, 21-3. You got to put the hurting on this defense because they're down some guys.
Yeah. If I was Nebraska, here, let me ask you, if you were Nebraska and you won the toss, I would take the ball.
I would
Take
not.
the ball. Take the ball. Go score. Get up early. You get a stop and a score on them. You're up 14-0. I mean,
Right.
you're set up pretty good. Iowa is not going to take the ball. They're going to put their defense out there because they trust their defense, as they should. They're a good defense. But so you said you would not?
No, because I feel like you can create a short field
Sure.
for your first possession because I think our defense looks best right out of the gate in games like this.
Yeah.
I mean, go look at Colorado, go look at Illinois, right? Go look at Ohio State. Pretty much every big game except the Indiana game, our defense looks really good right out of the gate.
Yeah. You also got to think.
You got to let those guys run.
Not that the crowd is going to be much of a
Also,
factor, but if your defense
if
gets
you're
a stop first series, I mean that takes the crowd out of the game for a while.
Correct. If you're up 14-3 going into half and you come out and score right away, the game's over.
That's true.
The game's over.
Yeah, and that actually
21-3 after half. Iowa's not built to come back.
Yeah, and that actually goes into my next point is don't be afraid to play their game. Iowa is going to be patient. They want to flip the field. They want to capitalize on field position. So if they get the ball first and they drive to the 40, punt it, put you inside the 10, that's exactly what they want. They're happy with that drive. Even though they didn't score points, they put you inside the 10. They're going to try to force you to make a mistake. They're going to kick a field goal. They're going to go up 3-0. They're going to do the same thing, go up 6-0. That's what they want to do. So I say if you're Nebraska, don't force anything. I'm not saying don't be aggressive, but don't, like if you're at midfield, don't go for it just to go for it. If you put them inside their 10, they're not going to drive 90 yards. That's not what they're built to do. They're built to put you inside your 10, get a pick, go 3 and out, kick a field goal. That's what they're built to do, and that's what they want to do. So if you're Dylan Raiola, you got to know, don't force throws because you just don't need to. Don't go for it when you don't need to. Play your game, trust your defense, and capitalize on good field position because Iowa's also going to make mistakes. They're going to punt it. They're going to be good at punting it. But if you make their quarterback throw, like we've already said, he's going to make mistakes. He's not going to be efficient. You can also, we have one of the best punters in the Big Ten. I truly believe it. Brian Buschini's been great this year. Has a chance to break the Nebraska record for average punt distance. And that's a huge thing because Sam Cock, who's a longtime NFL punter, holds that record right now. So Brian Buschini has a chance to break that. Trust him. If it's fourth and 4 at the 50-yard line, just pin him deep. You don't force anything because, as I said, they're not built to do anything with that.
Yeah. So my next one is 2 tied into 1. Pretty similar. So limit mistakes, right? And that doesn't only mean turnovers. It's dumb penalties. Okay, it's turnovers. It's dumb penalties. It's bad throws. It's missed tackles. It's missed blocks. It's the little tiny mistakes. Because here's the thing, Iowa plays really, really, really well together as a team, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. That's how they win games. They are very, very efficient. They're not going to turn the ball over a whole lot. They're going to create a lot of turnovers, not going to have a whole lot of penalties, not going to miss a lot of tackles, not going to miss a lot of blocks. That's how you win these close games. On the flip side of that, you have to force mistakes and capitalize on them. We're going to get to the quarterback, okay? This offensive line for Iowa is okay. It's not great, not the best we've seen all year. We've got to the quarterback every game. Sacks need to be sack fumbles, okay? QB hurries, need to be picks. Third and twos need to turn into fourth and sixes, punts. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to stop them. You got to be able to force mistakes because that's how you're going to win the game. So you got to limit your own and force some on their end, which kind of ties into just like winning a turnover battle.
Yeah. And then actually, my last one was don't make mistakes. So, kind of just more on what you didn't say. You know, this Iowa defense isn't what it usually is. This is usually a dominant defense. This year, it's not top 25 in either rushing or passing. They allow 196 passing yards per game, 115 rushing yards per game. As I said, they're both outside of the top 25 nationally. Aiden Childs, who's been inconsistent all year at Michigan State, went for over 250 on Iowa. Ethan Garbers, who's been, good down the stretch, went for over 200. UCLA ran for over 200 on him. Their top corner isn't even playing. He's sitting out. Nebraska's going to have success moving the ball. And as Zach said, if you just limit your mistakes, you're going to be in the red zone. You're going to get red zone opportunities, whether those are field goals or touchdowns. You just need to capitalize. You need to score because Iowa's not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, my final one is continue to let Dylan open up. Right, that's the biggest thing we've seen in the USC game a little bit, a lot in the Wisconsin game. He's gaining confidence in Dana. He's gaining confidence in this offense. He's opening up. Right, Iowa is not ready for a quarterback that's going to open up and play free. Okay, they want quarterbacks to play flustered, quarterbacks to play scared, just always like seeing ghosts out there. That's how Iowa wins games. You got to play free. You got to give them time. You got to break man coverage. You got to break zones. You got to sit inside zones. You got to get open for them. I am so confident. I was at a watch party for the Wisconsin game, and I was telling a guy, if you give when Dylan sits back there and he has time, I can almost sit there and guarantee you a completion every time. When he has time, I can almost sit there and guarantee you he's going to find someone and he's going to complete it. Okay, when he's pressured, exact opposite, right? It's almost guaranteed an incompletion or even an interception every single time. It's like 2 of his 10 picks this year are probably without pressure. So 8 of his 10 picks probably with pressure this year. Yeah. So you got to protect him because they're still going to come at you. They're still going to probably try to get to the quarterback. If you can give him time, you can let him be free. It's going to open up everything else. It's going to open up that offense. The floodgates will start to open. The points will start rolling as well.
Yeah, so getting to our player to watch, and before we actually do this, I want to mention, you mentioned it, Dylan, if he has time. Also, Dylan against zone coverage this year versus man, Dylan picks apart zone coverage. And nobody runs more zone coverage than Iowa. So just want to throw that out there. But getting to players to watch, my player to watch is on the defensive side, John Bullock. He's been great all year. He started off at an all Big Ten type of linebacker. And Nebraska has been great on, third and short, fourth and short. Seems like nobody ever gets fourth and short or third and short on Nebraska. It's always Nebraska just unleashes on them. They're always running back, celebrating. And John Bullock always seems like either him or Mekhi Bear are the first ones there. So he needs to come up big because there's going to be those times. It's going to be fourth and one. Maybe not much fourth and one because fourth and one, Kirk Ferentz is going to punt it. But like a third and one, they're going to run it up the middle. We need John Bullock to get up there first. And we also need him to guard the tight ends because that's the only kind of passing they do is a little bootleg to the right, tight end going on a flare, throw it to him for the first down on like a 3rd and 5. That's the only type of pass they're going to do. They're going to attempt. They're not going to attempt anything downfield. It's going to be in that short area. So linebackers need to come up, and John Bullock is our best one. So he needs to come up big in this game, and I think he will.
Yeah, mine's a little unconventional. Mine's gonna be Thomas Fidone. So a couple of reasons here. Fidone grew up in Iowa. A lot of people wanted Fidone to go to Iowa. That was during their time of the George Kittles, the Sam Laportas, the best of the best tight end you. He didn't, right? Grew up a Husker fan. You want to be a Husker. I know lots of ex-Iowa football players. I can tell you right now, there is legit hate in that Iowa team for Thomas Fidone. on the scouting report, take out his knees, right? Knee braces are things to look for on Thomas Froning on the scouting report. It is true hate for that guy. You tie that in with the fact that last week he got pulled. This week's kind of his prove it week. He knows when he gets a chance, he can't mess up because it may be the last one he gets. Okay, especially getting older, knees are getting worse, right? It may be the last chance he gets, and so look for Thomas Fidoni to come out there and have his own hate in his heart and have his own chip on his shoulder from the team as well, and really try to go out there and have a proven game this week.
Yeah, and Dana said in the press conference, somebody asked him about it, like he hardly played against Wisconsin, and he said it's competition. Like, and then he also said, Thomas had his best day of practice since I've been here, and he's going to be out there making plays on Saturday. So look for a big game. I would love to see a big game from Fidoni because he's a guy that's stuck around through everything, had opportunities to go elsewhere, but wanted to stick it out. Huh?
Yeah, he's absolutely had a lot of money offered to him.
Oh, yeah.
Well.
And he decided to stick it out. So I want him to have success, not only in this game but also in the future at Nebraska. As I think he's got like a year left. Getting into our score predictions, as of tonight, Wednesday night, Iowa is a 4.5-point favorite with an over/under of 39.5, meaning Vegas is predicting a 22-17 win for Iowa. I personally don't think Iowa scores that much, and I also think Nebraska finds more success than they're giving them credit for. I think this senior class has so much heart and wants to change this program, and that's why, guys like Thomas Fidoni, guys like Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmacher, they've stuck around because they want to be the change. They want to be the team that does it. They want to be the team that finally turns that corner, and they've kind of already done it with the bowl game. They want to beat Iowa for the first time since 2021 when Mickey Joseph took over. I think they play hard. I think they play loose, and I think Nebraska dominates defensively and finds a lot of success offensively. This is going to seem overconfident, I feel like, but 34-14 Nebraska is my prediction. I think obviously the over hits and then Nebraska covers. This might be, as I said, me just riding high off of the big week last week, but I feel great about this one. I think Nebraska matches up better with Iowa than they did against Wisconsin, and we saw what happened with Wisconsin last week. So I think they find a lot of success in this one.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a little bit more low scoring. I think this looks a lot like the Colorado game. I think we get out to an early lead here. I think the second half we kind of milk it away. Maybe we give up the score. The second half we're really going to force them to throw the ball. They might catch one crossing route, which leads them up. They're inside the 20. And then they can run the ball from there. They end up scoring. Cool. 24-10. Nebraska is my prediction. I'd love to see a defensive beatdown like we saw against Colorado here. I think it's definitely possible. I think Iowa's offensive line is much better than Colorado's, but I do think we can still get through. I think our pass rushers are a little better.
But is Iowa's offensive line better than Wisconsin's offensive line?
Correct. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think we're getting to the quarterback here. I think our corners are going to have, a much easier time. Our secondary is going to have a much easier time this week. So you kind of mix those two together. But at the same time, Iowa has a better defense than Wisconsin. I don't think we put up as many. I think 24 is a good. I think 21, 3 at half probably. We put up 3 in the second half. They put up 7, 24-10. That's how it goes.
Yeah. No, I want to win this game so bad. I don't think besides the Colorado game, there's not a game on this schedule I want to win more than this one. And if you told me like a couple weeks ago, everything seemed so down and like what is happening with Nebraska football. If you told me at the end of the year we would be 7-5, but we would have wins over Colorado, Wisconsin, and Iowa, I'd feel really good about it. So if we can finish this out the right way, we're gonna have a lot of momentum going into the bowl week, and it's gonna be a fun off season, and that's all you can hope for. I think it's gonna be a fun off season anyway, just because the bowl's already happened. Dana is providing good momentum as well. So But this could really catapult Nebraska in a good way. We're gonna get to our picks real quick, our Bet the Mortgage picks. I did really well last week. I think I lost one. I don't remember which one I lost, but I lost. I only lost one. I know I'm not sure how Zach did. Um, but my first one, Oklahoma State plus 16 and a half against Colorado. Kansas found a way to run the ball all over Colorado last week. Oklahoma State is also starting a new QB that brings some juice. I think Colorado wins, but I think 16 and a half is a bit too much for a team that really wants to run with Ollie Gordon and a team like Colorado who just showed that they could be susceptible to the run last week.
Yeah, mine is the game. So we got Ohio State, Michigan, over 43 and a half. Ohio State might put up 35 here. Ohio State's defense is good, but it's really hard to shut guys out. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan puts up 10, 35-10, puts us over. Ohio State might put up more than that. Michigan might put up more than that. I think 43 and a half is a pretty low score for a game like this.
Yeah. So my next one is actually the opposite. It's an under. It's not the complete opposite. It's a different game. Notre Dame USC under 51 and a half. USC last week showed no sort of offense against UCLA. Now they face off against a top 5 unit, top 5 defense in the country with Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame struggles a little bit offensively because I think USC defensively has figured some things out late. But I think Notre Dame still figures out enough to win. So I think it's going to be like a 20-7 or like a 27-10 win for Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame dominates the whole way. And I think the under is pretty easy in this one.
Yeah, I think I'll go right after that game as well. Notre Dame minus 7.5. Like you said, I think Notre Dame's just a better team. I think they're a lot better team. 27-10 was your score, or even 21-10. Both of those are well over 7.5. So I just think it's not nearly enough points there for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think they're giving USC a little bit too much credit for their talent on offense. I don't think their quarterback's very good. I think Mayavis has a lot of potential, and he's shown that he can make a lot of mistakes. And this Notre Dame defense is going to be by far the best defense he's played. So I think he struggles, and I think Notre Dame is sitting on all cylinders right now, running the ball, and Riley Leonard can do enough as well. My last one is going against the grain on what everybody else is doing. Texas minus 6. Everybody is on A&M. The narrative, which it's not a wrong narrative, but the narrative is, Texas hasn't played anybody. Texas doesn't have any wins. They still were in the playoff last year. Like, they're still a talented team. And I don't think Texas A&M is all that great. Like, Texas A&M best win is, I can't even think of a Texas A&M win. I mean, they lost to Notre Dame week 1. They got killed by South Carolina. They got beat by Auburn last week. I know it's at home. I know people are hyping that up, but like I said, I think Texas can come in and smack them in the mouth, and then the home field gets taken right out of the game. So I'm not worried about that. I just think Texas is more talented. They have the better coach. They have the better QB. I think they win by 2 scores. So minus 6 is easy.
Yeah, my next one is going to be Tennessee minus 10.5 versus Vanderbilt. This is not the Vanderbilt we saw beat Alabama. This is not the Vanderbilt we saw crack the top 20. This is getting closer and closer to the old Vanderbilt. This Tennessee team, they got something to prove, right? They're still fighting for a playoff spot. They're going to come out here mad. They're going to come out here pissed off. Vanderbilt, not really fighting for anything right now. Kind of a consolation game for them. Yeah, I think Tennessee's going to walk all over them. Probably beat them by 21. 24. Not sure how many yet. Somewhere around there.
Yeah. Texas kind of dominated Vanderbilt, and then Vanderbilt kind of backdoor covered. So that's what I would worry about with this game. But yeah, no, I think you're right on there. You got anything else before we sign it off?
Small honorable mention. A couple bets here. Auburn plus 11.5 in the Iron Bowl. I like Auburn.
Yeah.
I think Auburn's on the up. Alabama's on the down. Arizona State -9. I think Arizona's a bad team. I think Arizona State's got a lot of fire to them. Arizona State controls their own destiny here, trying to fight for the playoff. Um, Again, they got something to prove out there as well.
Yeah, and I did want to mention, I forgot we mentioned that we would do this. So it's being put out there that if Nebraska wins, they're going to be in Tampa at the Relic West Bowl, what used to be the Gator Bowl. And that would be against one of the SEC teams that doesn't make the playoffs. So South Carolina, if they don't make it, Ole Miss, if they don't end up making it. Alabama, I think, is going to make it, but if Alabama doesn't make it, they would also be a team to watch out for there. That would be insane. Tennessee, if they don't end up making it, would be another team. And then I think they're also saying if Nebraska loses this game, they could be headed to Nashville, which would be the Music City Bowl, which would also be another SEC team out of those same teams. So you're looking at South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss. Obviously, it worries me a little bit because of the way Nebraska looked, 2 weeks ago and the way Ole Miss looked 2 weeks ago. But the way things have kind of shifted. Also, you look at Nebraska, nobody's going to sit out of this bowl game. Not a single person. Everybody's going to play. These SEC teams have a lot of talent, a lot of draft picks that are probably going to sit out. Maybe some big guys. Jackson Dart might not play. I don't think he's made a decision yet on if he's going to the draft or not. Trey Harris is already hurt for Ole Miss. South Carolina, they're a young team, so they might have a lot of players play. But also like Alabama, Jalen Milroe, whatever he decides to do, he might sit out of the game. So there's a lot of potential there. I would be really excited, personally, to play one of those teams just to see where we are. And if Nebraska beats one of those teams going into next year, that's just a whole new jump start. That would be insane. What do you think?
Yeah, one of the graphics they showed at the Wisconsin game was just how many more practices you get from getting bowl games. It was over 150 practices we've missed out on. That's seasons worth.
Yeah.
Of practices. So you want to look at why we haven't been able to develop at the highest level. We're missing out on seasons, multiple seasons worth of practices to develop these kids. So it's an extra spring camp. And we all know how much better we get in spring. It's an extra spring camp.
No, I think that's the thing that goes unnoticed is you love to make it to a bowl game. And people say these bowl practices, I don't think that people really realize how important these are. It's like a mini, you improve so much in the spring and you're getting an extra one of those. And you get recruits that come in early are going to be able to come to these practices and you're just going to get an early look at them. And it's just an entirely new thing and it can help you out a lot. So yeah, I would be super excited to play one of those teams, and I'm already super excited to get those extra practices. If Nebraska loses, they have a chance to, play in Phoenix, I think, which is the Mayo Bowl, and that would be against a Big 12 team, and that's I think that's the day after Christmas, so that's a little bit of a shorter window. So I think that's the least likely scenario, but that's also my least favorite scenario. Probably be though the best chance for a win because. You're playing a Big 12 team. We already saw what Nebraska did to a top Big 12 team earlier this year. So I like our chances there. But then the SEC teams would be cool too. So you got anything else?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like, hit the bell, follow us on all our socials. But without further ado, go Big Red.